The arms a little bit away from the body, palms facing up towards the ceiling. Then pressing into the back of your head, lifting the shoulder blades, drawing the skin down the back and replacing the shoulder blades on the floor so that the skin of the upper back is drawn down by the mat and you can spread the shoulder blades. Letting the hinges of the jaws release away from each other. Breathing through your nose on both your inhale and exhale breath. And the skin around your eyes soften and your gaze turn inwards. And observing your spontaneous breath, just following the journey of the inhale from the tips of the nostrils to the lungs. And the exhale from the lungs to the tips of the nostrils. Let your belly soften so that it's free to move with your inhale breath and your exhale breath. Bringing some focus to that exhale breath. With each exhale breath, feel like you're surrendering any tension from the body and merging into the earth. Releasing the abdomen back towards the spine without pulling it inwards. And bringing more attention to your inhale breath, see if you can gradually start to deepen the breath, but without straining. Breathing into the belly, but also into the side ribs, the upper back, and all the way up underneath your collarbones to the top of the lungs. A sense of releasing all of the body weight into the floor with your exhale breath. Just feeling how your breath moves the body. And not just the more obvious movements, expansion and contraction of the rib cage, but the more subtle movements towards the periphery of the body, the contact points of the back of the hands or the back of the arms with the floor. Then letting your breath subside back into a natural rhythm for you today. Just observing the spontaneous inhale and exhale as they arise. And extending your arms over your head, interlace your fingers and turn the palms towards the back of the room. So for a moment, still with your knees bent, extend through the palms. Feel like you're stretching out, trying to straighten the arms. Feel like you're drawing your shoulder blades back down into the floor. Taking a few deeper breaths again into the side ribs, out into that armpit area. And as you exhale, and to draw the shoulder blades down. And straightening your legs and stretching all the way from the soles of the feet to the palms. Now you might activate the legs for a moment by extending the heels away, flexing the toes back. Take some deep breaths down into your abdomen while it's in that stretched out position. And then relaxing a little, so relaxing the feet, bending at the elbows and turning the palms to face the top of your head. Walk your shoulders over towards the left side of the mat, leaving the pelvis in the center. And then walk the heels over towards the left side of the mat. If you can, it feels okay to do so, then hook your right ankle over your left ankle. And uninterlace your fingers and reach your left hand over to take the outside of the right elbow. Leave both shoulder blades on the floor and keep your belly soft as you breathe. Feel like you're letting the legs be heavy, the ankles relaxed, even though they're hooked over. Just direct your breath to wherever you're feeling that stretch through the right side of the body. Outer right hip, outer right waist. And to just sink back into the floor with your exhale breath. And releasing that right elbow, walk your shoulders back to the center of the mat so the shoulders are lined up with your hips. Unhook the foot and bring the feet back to the center and interlace your fingers again and stretch the palms towards the back of the mat, the soles of the feet towards the front of the mat. Couple of deep breaths in that stretched out neutral spine position. And relax the legs again, turn the palms back towards the top of the head and the elbows relaxed. Walk your shoulders over to the right side of the mat. And then your heels over to the right side of the mat and hook that left ankle over the right ankle if you can. Uninterlace the fingers, reach the right hand over and take hold of the outside of the left elbow. Now that you're drawing that elbow over towards the right side of the mat lightly. And breathe into wherever you feel the stretch through the left side of the body. Try to soften any tension in the body with your exhale breath, letting the legs be heavy, your abdomen be soft, the shoulder blades sinking down into the floor. And releasing your elbow, walking the shoulders back to the center of the mat and unhooking the foot. Feet back to the center of the mat. Bring your arms down alongside the torso, palms onto the floor, and rebend your knees, bringing your heels in towards your sit bones with the feet at hip width distance. And pressing into the hands, lift the back of the pelvis and hover the back of the pelvis off the floor. As a slow movement, lift the pubic bone towards the ceiling and feel like you're lengthening the tailbone towards your knees. And press into the upper arms. As you press into the upper arms, try and lift the mid and upper spine away from the floor. You're coming to a point where none of the spine is touching the floor. You can press into the back of your head, which will get some strength into the muscles at the back of the neck. You're pressing the upper arms down, lifting the spine away from the floor, also pressing into your feet and lengthening the tailbone towards your knees. And slowly, with control, roll the spine back to the floor. Top of the back lands first. And rolling all the way down and to the lower back and the back of the pelvis. Relax everything for a moment. Let the belly be soft, the groins be soft. Take a few breaths deep down into your abdomen, and then pressing into the feet, lift the back of the pelvis again. Slowly then lifting the pubic bone towards the ceiling, lengthening the tailbone towards the knees. So we're getting a little bit of a backward tilt on the pelvis as we do that. It's difficult to kind of get your head around the fact that it is a backward tilt in this position, but that's what's happening. Lengthening the tailbone towards the knees, buttock muscles engage, and press into your upper arms and see if you can get more lift of the mid and upper back away from the floor. Again, you can press into the back of your head if you like. That's going to help to strengthen the muscles at the back of the neck. Keep breathing while you're there, lengthening the tailbone towards the knees. And then slowly bringing that back down again. Lowering down until the back of the pelvis is on the floor, and then just relaxing the belly, relaxing around the groins, a few breaths into your belly. Extending your legs out in front of you and come up onto your elbows. Coming up onto the elbows, elbows are underneath your shoulders. It's kind of like a reverse Sphinx position. Forearms and hands are all in that same parallel line. And then press into the elbows and lift the chest. As you do, try and ground through the palms and push the palms forwards towards the front of the mat. So grounding through the elbows, pushing into the palms, pushing the palms forwards towards the front of the mat, lifting the chest, and almost a feeling of trying to squeeze your shoulder blades in towards each other. There won't be much movement, by the way, but just a feeling of trying to squeeze the shoulder blades in. Breathing into the upper chest, and as you exhale, you might draw the navel back towards the spine. And pressing into the hands, lift yourself up so that you come up to a seated position and walk your hands back a little bit, bend in the elbows. And you've got the arms all in line with the shoulders, so elbows, and just squeeze them in slightly. They're bent and slightly squeezing in, shoulder blades squeezing towards each other. And then I feel like you're grounding the mound of your thumb and trying to push the hands forwards towards the front of the mat. And keep that action, bend your knees and bring the soles of the feet to the floor, but don't bring them right in towards your sit bones. So probably about a foot, maybe even a foot and a half away from the sit bones. Feeling of pressing down into the palms and trying to push the palms forwards towards the front of the mat. And then lift up and bring yourself into a tabletop position. Pressing down through the mound of the thumb. Now it will be difficult to push them towards the front of the mat, so don't. Just press them down into the floor, lift and broaden across the chest, press the feet down into the floor, and lengthen your tailbone towards your knees again, so there's that lift of the pubic bone. Keep breathing. And then slowly lower that down. Bring yourself back down to sitting. Coming into a cross-legged position. Reach the left arm up in front of you. You're bringing the arm pretty close to the face, so palms facing in for now. There's the upper arms pretty close to your face. And then bend your elbow and take that arm down behind your back. Once you've got it down behind the back, keeping that upper arm pretty close to the face, form a fist. Press down through your sit bones, lift the chest, and crown of the head's reaching for the ceiling. And with your left arm, Take it up the back and form a fist again. Squeeze those fists towards each other. Keep pressing into the sit bones, lengthening the spine. And then tip your head off to one side or tip the chin too far forward. So neck's in line with the rest of the spine. Squeeze the fists towards each other and keep breathing deep, full expansive breaths into the side ribs. As you exhale, you might engage bandhas or draw the navel back towards the spine. Then, if it's possible, you can release the fingers, and if the fingers make contact, give it one little squeeze, pull. If you don't make contact, don't worry, just work with the fist position. If you've got hold of the fingers, just stretch that right elbow up towards the ceiling a little bit more as you pull with the left hand. And then release it. And go to the other side. So left arm reaches forwards, palm facing in to start. That's just going to stop you winging your elbow off to one side and keep that arm in alongside the face. And take it down the back. Make a fist. Then right hand comes up the back. And the elbow is trying to come in towards the side waist. First of all, with the fists. So we're using active range of motion. So once we actually grab hold of the fingers, then we're pulling ourselves into position, which is kind of nice to get a little bit of stretch and flexibility. This active range of motion of trying to get to the same place by squeezing the fists towards each other rather than relying on leverage is just going to give us a little bit more strength in that mobility. Keep lengthening from the sit bones to the crown of the head as you squeeze the fists towards each other, and don't hold your breath, let the breath flow. Then if you can release the fists and make contact with the fingers, you can. And use the right fingers to draw down on the left ones as you try and stretch that left elbow up to the ceiling. Still steady breath, long spine. And releasing that in the arms down, and just give yourself a little shrug and roll of the shoulders backwards, roll of the shoulders forwards again, just loosen everything up again after that stretch. And reach your arms out to the side. I feel like you're really extending the fingertips to the opposite sides of the room and trying to broaden the space between your shoulder blades. And then just feeling a little bit of that shoulder blade mobility. Try and suck the arms back towards each other. So it's like you're trying to suck the bone at the top of the arm back into the socket and squeeze your shoulder blades together. Then release it again and extend the fingers out. So then just make that action a few times so you don't have to do it in synchronicity with the breath. This feeling of squeezing the shoulder blades together, extending them apart. And extend them apart again, and cross your right elbow under your left elbow and wrap the arms around. So we're coming into that eagle pose position, either grabbing a thumb or bringing the palms together. So if you've got the palms together, try and lose any kinks you've got in the wrist. So there's a tendency for the wrist to try and lose that so that the fingers are stacking directly above the elbows. And then feel like you're pulling your elbows apart. Lift the elbows to around the height of the shoulders, but without shrugging the shoulders up around your neck. Elbows lift. Feel like you're trying to pull those forearms away to the side of the room. And breathe into your upper back. So as you inhale, try and expand the space between the shoulder blades. As you exhale, gain some length. So press into the sit bones, lift the crown of the head. And releasing that and extending your arms out to the side again. And bring your left elbow underneath your right elbow, same thing, wrap. Again, press the forearms into each other as if you're trying to get that right arm to go back to the right side of the room, left arm back to the left side of the room. Lift the elbows to the height of the shoulders without shrugging the shoulders around the ears, or as close to you as you can get. And again, breathe into your upper back. Feel like you're really broadening the upper back with your inhale breath. You're stretching those shoulder blades apart. With your exhale breath, and to grow tall, pressing into the sit bones, top of the head towards the ceiling. And then release it. Take the arms out to the side, deep inhale breath as you stretch the fingertips apart, and then bring your palms together in front of you, interlace the fingers. Squeeze the palms together, so you're trying to squeeze the palms all the way down to the wrist. Release your index finger. The arms are nice and straight. All right, I'm just lowering my arms so that I can show you that my palms are together, keep them shoulder height. And then unfold your legs and take them into an Upper Vishnupadasana. Extend through your heels, press the inner thighs down towards the floor, get nice and long through the spine. Keep squeezing the palms and lean forwards with your fingers at shoulder height. Once you're there, while you're squeezing the palms, feel like you're trying to pull the arms apart. And again, breathe deep breaths into your upper back. Inhale, broaden between the shoulder blades. As you exhale, you might draw the navel in, you might even lean a little bit further forwards, but don't feel like coming too far forwards is essential. And then draw it back to a vertical spine, and keeping that squeeze of the palms, lift your arms as high as they'll go. So the squeezing of the palms and the pulling apart of the hands, they'll get the muscles activated all through the arm. So forearm, upper back, everything is working. You can probably tell. It's quite exhausting trying to hold this position. And then bring the arms down. Sometimes the simplest of things are the hardest. Bring your hands down to the floor. Keep pressing the backs of the legs into the floor. Walk your hands forwards as far as they'll go without you hunching. So don't lose your neck. Keep the collarbones broad. And then grip your fingertips into the floor and feel like you're pulling the hands towards you. So if the elbows slightly bend as you make that pulling action, that's absolutely fine. There's a feeling of trying to get your breastbone to project forwards through your hands as you grip the fingertips into the floor and pull back. Keep your legs active, keep flexing your toes back, press the inner thighs down towards the floor. And then come back up to a seated position. You can keep the Upper Vishnupadasana legs. Extend your arms out to the side. Bring them together and bring the elbows together, but take the hands apart. So try and lift the elbows as high as they'll go without you hunching the shoulders, and squeeze the elbows in towards each other as you try and take the hands apart. This is really, really hard work. So squeezing the elbows in, pulling the hands apart as much as you can. This will all, how far apart you get the hands will all depend on the carrying angle of your elbow. So some of us have got a wider one, some of us have got a narrow, narrow one. Don't worry if everybody else has their hands up further apart than yours. And take another inhale breath, take the arms back behind you. Interlace your fingers and extend your knuckles back. Feel like you're taking them a little bit away from the body. The action through your legs. Squeeze your shoulder blades together and lengthen your neck. So don't dip your head forwards. Have the crown of the head reach towards the ceiling. Keep pressing the inner thighs down towards the floor and then lean forwards. Keep stretching your knuckles back. Try and lift the thumbs a little bit away from the body. Thinking about squeezing your shoulder blades together. Don't worry about how far forwards you come, but we might as well get a stretch of the inner thighs while we're working the shoulders. All right. And then coming back up again and release the arms. Have another little shrug of your shoulders backwards, shoulders forwards. All right. Taking your right arm up again. Bring the hand down and hold it on to, sort of on the back of the skull behind the ear on the left side of the head. Bring your left hand to the side, out to the side of the left hip. And then keeping a long spine, just use the weight of the hand to gently, very gently, draw your head over to the right. Almost feel like you're resisting with the head and pushing the head back into the hand as you're pulling it over. Gently, gently, gently. Obviously, if it gets a little bit too sensational, delicate neck muscles, don't pull too hard. And bring that back up to the center, right hand out to the side, left arm up, take hold of the back of the skull to the side, just behind your ear, and keeping a straight spine otherwise. Draw your head over to the left side. So again, a little bit like you're trying to resist with the head against the pull of the arm, but gently, gently, gently. And then release that. Bring the arm back down and just rotation through the thigh bone. Big toe, little toe, big toe, little toe. Gradually work your legs back together. So back together, sweep the knees out to the side and come to an all fours position. Making sure the knees are underneath the hips or a little bit further away, further behind you, while the front heads of the shoulders are over the wrist, and spread the fingers wide. Press down into the pads of the thumb, the mounds of the fingers, and spiral your biceps forwards. Tuck your toes under, and then without bending your elbows, push the sitting bones back towards the heels. So your sitting bones might not land on the heels. Keep that connection between the pads of the fingers, the mounds of the thumb, as you push the front of the mat away. Let your head drop, so you're looking down between your toes. And if you want to bring your head down onto the floor and can still maintain the action in the arms, then you can do that. But keep it hovering if not, so arms are more important. And again, think about your breathing. So as you breathe, try and expand that space between your shoulder blades. If you're trying to lift the space between the shoulder blades towards the ceiling. As you exhale, that might soften a little bit, might get the rib cage a bit closer to the thighs. And then as you inhale, broaden between the shoulder blades. And notice as you make that action that the hands want to press down more strongly into the floor with that inhale and that expansion of the upper back. Then rock back forwards again. Once you've done to all fours, continue. So you're bringing your hip bones forwards and down towards the floor. Get that press into the palms and spiral the inner elbows forward. So you're broadening across the collarbones. Nice long neck. We're just casually bringing the hip bones down towards the floor. So you're in a sort of floppy upward dog. And keep pressing forwards through your hands and let the elbows travel backwards alongside the rib cage as you come down onto your belly. Point your toes back behind you. Press the tops of the feet into the floor. Press your pubic bone down into the floor and grip your fingertips into the floor. Pull the hands towards the back of the room and lift the chest. So you're gripping the fingertips in, trying to pull the mat back without the hands moving. And again, squeeze your shoulder blades towards each other. Keep trying to press the pubic bone down and breathe. And release it, chin back down to the floor. Take a couple of breaths. Then let's go again, pressing the tops of the feet down, pubic bone down, fingertips in, pulling the hands towards the back of the mat, lifting and broadening the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades towards each other. And then chin back down to the floor. Moving your hands forwards, coming into a Sphinx position so that the arms are parallel to each other. Elbows are underneath your shoulders. And again, that feeling of pressing the tops of the feet down and drawing your navel in. And now feeling of pulling the elbows towards the back of the mat. Now, as you pull the elbows back, feel like you're trying to take your lower breastbone forwards. There's a real lift in the chest, still a sense of lifting the chest and broadening across the collarbones as you pull the elbows back. And tuck your toes under and lift into a forearm plank. And press down the balls of the feet, extend your heel, your tailbone towards your heels. Not even take your heels back towards the back of the room. Feel slightly like you're pushing the elbows out towards the side of the mat. So you're broadening the space between your shoulder blades again as you do. Now we're trying to lift that space and broaden it between the shoulder blades rather than it collapsing down. So push the floor away with the elbows and maybe feel like they're taking them out to the sides. And coming back down again onto your elbows and back into your Sphinx, pointing the toes back. And pulling the elbows back towards the back of the mat, feeling like you're squeezing the shoulder blades towards each other. Slightly different action again. Now we're trying to squeeze the shoulder blades towards each other. They won't move much as we draw the low part of the breastbone forwards and pull the elbows back. Then taking it back into a forearm plank and trying to broaden the shoulder blades away from each other as you press the elbows out towards the side of the room. Then, just because we might as well, while we're here, bring the right palm behind the left elbow and roll onto the outer edge of your right foot. So you're coming into a side forearm plank. I feel like you're stacking the shoulder blades on top of each other, pressing the floor away with that forearm and even pressing the forearm slightly towards the front of your mat. Raise your left arm up. And see if you can raise your left leg up. Then if you want to take it further, bend that knee, grab hold of the ankle and see if you can kick that foot back behind you into the hand. Just a bit. Release it. And come back down into your forearm plank and then back down into a sphinx. Pull the elbows back towards the back of the mat. And then back into your forearm plank. Press the elbows out towards the sides of the mat. And bring your left palm behind your right elbow and over onto the outer edge of your left foot. I feel like you're pressing down through that forearm and even a slight feeling of pushing it towards the front of your mat. Raise your right arm up. If you want to raise the right leg up, raise the right leg up. So all of these are just loading a little bit more. And then if you want to bend that ankle, knee and grab the ankle, kick the foot back into the hand. Doesn't have to, can just lift the outer leg up or keep it in a forearm plank and then come back to the center, 2 on forearm plank and come back down onto your belly, point your toes back. Now come down all the way to the chin. Take the hands out to sides of the body with your palms facing down. Pressing into the tops of the feet, pubic bone pressing towards the floor. Lift the front heads of the shoulders, the chest and the chin. And press your hands down strongly into the floor. Now feel that really strong action. So that'll really engage the core muscles. As you breathe, see if you can draw your navel in and cinch in the sideways. But keep trying to press the hands down strongly into the floor. And then release it. Bring the chin back down to the floor, rest for a moment. You can always wobble your hips from side to side a little bit. This tends to loosen up the lower back muscles again when we make that action. Then lift the front heads of the shoulders, chest, chin again, and the hands can be lightly resting on the floor because we're going to move them. Interlace your fingers behind your back. Stretch your knuckles towards the back wall, broaden across the collarbones. Feel like you're squeezing the shoulder blades together, but trying to pull your hands apart. You're thinking about drawing the side waist in and the navel in with your exhale breath, just so that we can get the whole of the core, all around the circle of the core, activating to help us in this pose. And release it. Hands alongside your lower ribs. Press into the tops of your feet again. Engage the buttock muscles by trying to press the pubic bone down and forwards. And then press forwards through the heels of your hands. So as you press forwards through the heels of the hands, the chest will automatically start to lift. Then lift into a high cobra. So squeeze the elbows in, broaden across the collarbones, keep pushing the hands forwards, keep squeezing the elbows in, stay active with the legs. And then take it all the way to an upward dog, straightening the arms, hovering the thighs, as long as that doesn't cause any pain in your lower back. And step over your toes into downward dog and take a little walk in downward dog. So bending one knee as you extend the opposite leg again. Just making this action is going to help to release the lower back muscles a little bit after they've been active. And bending one knee, extending the opposite leg. All right, so let's give the arms and the back a little rest for a moment. Inhale your right leg up in the air. Exhale and bring it through to a lunge. And press down through the ball of your back foot. Feel like you're lifting the inner left thigh towards the ceiling. Press down through the ball and heel of the front foot. And then inhale, raise your arms up over the head. So crescent lunge position. So we're going to leave the arms on the back, a little bit of a rest. We're still going to get a little bit of expansion through the back here. So then take the arms down, interlace the fingers, and stretch the knuckles back, lift the chest. Feel like you're breathing all the way up underneath your collarbones. Staying really active through the back foot so that that back leg is straight. Might even gently engage your left buttock muscle and feel like you're trying to lift that hip point. And drawing the navel in, lifting the chest, stretching the knuckles back. Then with control, lay the right side rib cage down over that right thigh. I feel like you're trying to get the rib cage to the inside of the thigh. So it might be that the front of your shoulders resting on the knee, but you're trying to slide the inside of that right rib cage down inside the thigh. And then lift the arms as high as you can, but without hunching the wrinkle in the skin around the neck. So keep feeling like you're drawing the shoulder blades together and stretching the knuckles away from the body. And slow peel. Bring it back up into crescent lunge, release the arms, raise them up over the head. One last inhale breath, stretching the fingers high, and then hands down to the floor and step back into downward dog. And now hopefully the action in the right thigh will have taken your mind off some of the action going on in the arms and back. Lifting the left leg up in the air. Taking that foot forwards into a lunge, firming into the ball of the back foot, strong back leg, and then lift up, raise your arms over the head in that crescent lunge position. Couple of breaths here. Establish the firmness of the grounding of the feet, lightness in your front toes, a slight forward motion through the ball and heel of that foot, bending the front knee as low as it will go. And then the grounding through the ball of the back foot and a feeling of trying to take that inner thigh back behind you. One more inhale breath. And bring the fingers back behind you. Extend the knuckles away, broaden across the collarbones, lift the chest and breathe all the way up underneath the collarbones. Expansive breath. Firm feet. And in slow motion, lay the rib cage down over that left thigh. I feel again like you're trying to slide the rib cage to the inside of that thigh a little bit. And stretching the knuckles away, see if you can lift the arms a little bit higher. And don't worry how high they go, but feel like you're squeezing the shoulder blades together, extending the knuckles away and leaving your neck nice and free without any wrinkles from the upper back. Trying to push down on it. It's stretching the knuckles away. And then slowly lift yourself back up. Stretch the knuckles back for a moment. And release the hands, take the arms up over the head. Inhale, lift the fingertips, try and reach them up and back behind you. And then hands down to the floor and step back into down. Have a little wiggle. Maybe swing the heels from side to side this time, rather than bending one knee and extending the other leg. Just getting a little bit of stretch through the outer hip, the sides of the torso as you do that. Then press forwards through the hands again, so grounding the pads of the fingers down to the thumb. Maybe even a feeling of slightly turning the right hand clockwise and the left hand anti-clockwise. And bend your elbows, hover them off the floor. Feel like you're squeezing the elbows towards each other. Then re-straighten your arms, so you're back into your downward dog. And then again, slight clockwise motion in the right hand, anti-clockwise in the left one, bend the elbows, hover them off the floor. And then descend them to the floor with control, both at the same time. So you're coming into a long dolphin position. Once you're there, if the elbows are wider than your shoulders, shuffle them in so they come to shoulder width.
And as you press into the elbows again, press them out towards the side of the mat without them moving. So they're staying at shoulder width, but you're pressing them down and pressing them out sideways towards the side of the mat. Release your neck so you can look down between your toes. And even if you feel like it, you can rest the top of your head on the floor if it reaches. Let's keep that action, pressing through the elbows and pressing them out towards the side of the mat. Now, if your head's on the floor, lift it, look forwards. Press forwards through the heels of the hands, try and lift both elbows back up at the same time. If they don't lift at the same time, pretend they did. All right. And looking forwards again. Wrap those elbows towards each other, bend them down towards the floor, hover, and then try and get them both down at the same time, shoulder width distance. If they didn't come down shoulder width distance, walk them back in towards each other. All right, so this is the fun bit. Don't worry too much if this doesn't happen. You've got to think about this quite hard in the head. So now you're going to project yourself forwards into a chaturanga. So that means lifting the elbows and straightening the body. So to do that, you've got to start descending the hips. So as if you were rocking forwards into a forearm plank, starting to descend the hips, then press into the hands, lift the elbows and project forwards into chaturanga. Then press the floor away and project back. So back to the forearms down. All right, try it a couple of times again, because it's like the nervous system is a little bit like, how the hell does that happen? Okay, so you're going to start to project forwards into a forearm plank, push forwards through the hands, and then lift the elbows and project. Good. And press the floor up. Bring it back into your forearm dolphin. Good. Come down to your knees. Bring your toes together. Take your knees out to mat width distance. Bring the forehead to the floor and rest in child's pose for a moment. So arms wherever you want to have the arms. Breathing into the back of the body. And then lifting back up, same position with the legs. Just bring the hips so that the hips are directly over your knees and walk the arms forwards. So you're bringing the forehead or the chin down towards the floor as you extend the arms out. Sitting bones up towards the ceiling. Now if it's too much of a pinch into the shoulder joint, walk your elbows back slightly so that you can take some of the pressure out of the shoulder joint and bring your forehead down to the floor. So you're using the elbows as a sort of break. If you've got no problem with it at all, you can just sink the chest down towards the floor as you extend the arms forwards, coming onto the front of the chin, but not the underneath of the chin if you're coming low. Feel like you're pressing your sit bones up towards the ceiling as you descend the chest down towards the floor. And then walking the elbows backwards. You're back into that forearm position. Step your feet backwards and come back into a forearm plank. From your forearm plank, start to lift the sit bones. Walk the feet forwards towards your elbows as far as they're going to come. Press down through the forearms. Feel like you're lifting the sit bones up towards the ceiling until the shoulders come over the elbows but not further forwards. Press into the balls of your feet. Feel that you're sucking the quadriceps and the front of the thigh bone back up into the hip socket. Then try and keep that and extend your heels down towards the floor. Oh. Just as far as they'll go. Good. Walk it back into forearm plank and then come back down onto your belly. Point the toes back. And then all the way onto your chin. Extend your arms forwards. Press into the tops of the feet, press your pubic bone down towards the floor, and then lift your arms up in front of you. Take them out into a V shape. So you're pointing the fingertips out towards the corners of the room. You're trying to lift the chest, then make fists and draw the elbows back. So you're making a W shape the arms. Re-extend them into a V. Draw them back into a W. Re-extend them into a V. Draw them back into a W. Re-extend them into a V. Draw them back into a W. And then come down onto your chin and just collapse for a moment. Wobble your hips from side to side. All right. And take the elbows out in a casual sphinx. So elbows are coming out and you're slightly lifting your chest. Leave the left arm where it is. Extend your right arm forward. So still resting on the floor to start with. And feeling both hip bones pressing down into the floor, lift your left leg. So you're pointing the toes back. You're pressing down through the top of the right foot to help keep that leg engaged and get some grounding. Then lift your right arm up. Form a fist and then pull that elbow back again. So keep lifting the left toe, stretching them for the back wall, pressing the hip bones down and pull that right elbow back as if you're trying to connect it to the left heel. Good. Then bring all of that back down again. So right arm is mirroring the left one and swap to the other side. Extend your left arm forwards but keeping it on the floor. Then lifting your right leg up, grounding through the top of the left foot, both legs firm. Stretch those right toes to the back wall, lift the left arm up. Form a fist and then draw it down into what is now a half W shape. Trying to take that left elbow back towards the right hip. Bring the arm down to mirror the right and swap that to the other side. Extending the right arm forwards, lift the left leg up. Point the toes back, lift the right arm up. Form a fist, draw it back into that half W shape. Bring it down, mirroring the left arm and then stretch the left arm forwards. Now the grounding of both feet, engagement of the legs, and lift your right leg up, stretch the toes back, lift the left arm up, form a fist. And then that half W. Bringing it down, heel towards the, elbow towards the heel. Then bring it down again and stretch both arms forwards. Press down through both the hips, the pubic bone, and lift both feet up. Stretch the toes back, then lift both arms up, form a fist, and another W, but this time with the feet lifted. Breathe, hold it there. One more inhale. Then exhale, snap the hands on top of each other, bring your head down onto the hands and give your hips a little bit of a wobble from side to side. Bring your hands alongside your lower ribs. Press into the tops of the feet, press the pubic bone down, press forwards through the heels of the hands and peel up away from the floor into a high cobra again. Keep squeezing the elbows in, lifting and broadening the chest. And then go all the way to your upward dog. So hovering the thighs. Peel yourself back down to the floor. Having made the observation that potentially you could go deeper in your upward dog. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But if you want to go deeper into a back bend, then hands travel back towards the waist a little bit more. If that was perfectly fine for you, keep your hands exactly where they are. And press into the tops of the feet again. Heels of the hands press forwards, peel up into a high cobra, squeeze the elbows in, and then take it up into your upward dog. Broad collarbones. So you're looking for stacking the fronts of the shoulders over the wrists again. You don't want to be projecting the chest forwards in front of the wrists. And then roll over your toes. Take it into a downward dog and do the bent knee, one knee bent. Straight. As you extend the heels down. Now get a good extension, so move fairly slowly. Really extending the heels back and down towards the floor. And start to walk your hands back towards your feet. Feet are still at hip width distance. Bend the knees as you go back. Bend the knees and lengthen the rib cage over the thighs. Try and bend the knees as low as you can go, as if you're sitting back into a chair and then reaching forwards to pick something up off the floor. For a moment, just enjoy the stretch through the back muscles. So as you sit down and lengthen the rib cage over the thighs, we're going to get a little bit of a stretch out of the back muscles. Then keeping your knees bent, first two fingers between your big toe and your second toe. Clamp the rib cage onto the thighs as you pull the elbows out to the side. Draw the shoulder blades down the back, release your head, let the neck lengthen so you're looking through your legs. Keep the action in the arms and this feeling like you're trying to draw the shoulder blades down the back and broaden the shoulders away from each other. So nice loose neck. Don't worry too much about how much you straighten your legs, but start to press outwards into the heels and straighten the legs a little bit, only as much as you can do while still keeping your nipples connected to your legs. So try not to separate the rib cage. So we're not so much looking for length in the back of the legs as strength in the upper back and length in the lower back, which is why we're keeping that torso connection, activating the arms, releasing the neck, drawing the shoulder blades back. All right, so now you can straighten your arms, and if you can straighten your legs with straight arms with no problem, then do that. Keep hold of the toes. Keep pressing outwards through the outer edge of the heels. Clamp the fingers to the floor, but then try and pull the toes up off the floor and draw your chest forwards and your shoulder blades back. Good. And release the toes, bring your hands to your hips, and come up to standing. Oh, I finally made it up to standing. Nice. Give your shoulders a little bit of a shrug around. Both directions, backwards, forwards. And probably you know what's coming as I've moved my mat out of the way. So 2 mats on top of each other and on top of a carpet, proving one leg balancing poses is quite difficult. So I'm just moving it out of the way. Interlace your fingers behind your back again. And get that feeling of extending the knuckles down, squeezing the shoulder blades together, but maybe feeling like you're trying to pull our hands apart. So you're not squeezing the palms together. It is an option to squeeze the palms together, but we're not squeezing the palms together for now. We're kind of pulling the hands apart with the interlace, just gripping around your knuckles. Try and squeeze the shoulder blades together. Then point your right toes back behind you. And don't lose the action through the arms. And start to lift the right toes up. Keep broadening across the collarbones and reaching the knuckles back. Reach the right toes for the back wall. So you're coming into a warrior 3 position in this clasped hand locust. Feel like you're trying to create the back bend. So lift that right heel up towards the ceiling. Don't worry if you fall. Alright, and then bring it back up. Release the hands for a moment, give it all a bit of a shake. And then re-interlace, extend the knuckles back and down, squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then point the left toes back behind you. I feel like you're squeezing the muscles around both legs, so you've got a strong engaged standing leg. And keep reaching the knuckles back, and then you're lifting the toes as if you're drawing an arc. It's like the leg is a compass. Reach it back as you lift the leg up. So then keep reaching your knuckles back, so you're broadening across the collarbones, deep breaths into the upper chest. Feel like you're lifting that left heel for the ceiling, just as if you were in a back bending locust pose on the floor. Good, and then release it. Beautiful, strong postures, everybody. And give your arms a really good shake out. Proper shake out. And coming back so that you're in Tadasana position, arms alongside the body.
Round through the feet for a moment, lengthen the crown of your head towards the ceiling, nice and broad across the collarbones, shoulder blades releasing down the back. So if anybody's going out for a walk today, I want you to think a little bit about how you're walking and whether you're feeling a little bit more freedom and buoyancy in your upper chest, having done all of this work to activate the back and all of that sort of chest area. So we can't really work on that upper back and the arms without getting a little bit more open across the chest as well. All right, so now taking your arms out to the side. Sit down into a chair pose with those wings extended. Lift the toes a little bit so you know that the weight back is back over the heels. And bring your right elbow underneath the left elbow and wrap the arms. Lift the elbows up to the height of the shoulders. Feel like you're pulling the hands apart and lift the right leg over the left leg and wrap it round if you can. If you can't get the foot behind the calf, then squeeze the outer calves towards each other. Feel like you're squeezing that right thigh onto the left thigh. Sit low, lift your elbows high. And keep feeling like we did at the start of the class when seated, that you're trying to broaden the upper back with your inhales. And with your exhales, squeeze into the midline. So draw your navel in, cinching the side waist, squeeze the legs onto each other. And with an inhale breath, unwrap everything. Exhale, left elbow underneath the right. Lift the elbows high. Feel like you're trying to pull the arms apart. Lift the left leg over the right leg and wrap it round. Then squeezing the outer calves together if you can't get the foot round the back of the calf. If you have got the foot round the back of the calf, which I think all of you have pretty much, then feel like you're trying to point the toes down towards the heel of the standing leg, trying to close the gap between the foot and the ankle at the back of the calf. Squeezing in with your exhale breaths, broadening between the shoulder blades, trying to pull the arms apart with your inhale breaths, managing the subtlety of those actions so you don't throw yourself off balance. So there's this constant subtle activation. All right, then with an inhale breath, unwrapping, taking the arms apart and coming back into your chair pose, hands in prayer. Inhale, lift the chest. And exhale and sit yourself down through a squat. Come into Navasana. Starting in Navasana with the knees bent and extending the arms forwards. Press into the sit bones, lift the chest, draw the shoulder blades onto the back. Have I gone into slow motion? I think we've got a little bit of I think the internet's being a little bit sort of slow. So if I have gone into slow motion, just listen to what I'm saying instead of what I'm doing. Squeeze the knees together, raise the arms up over the head and try and draw the shoulder blades down the back. So there's this real extension through the fingers, but there's a feeling of trying to engage the shoulder blades down the back. So your upper arm muscles will engage at the same time. Then bring the arms down again, stretch them forwards. Then straighten the legs. Squeeze the legs towards each other and then take the arms up again. As you do, try and lift the chest, try and reach the thumbs back. Keep squeezing the legs together. Watch out for that balance. And then bend the knees and bring the arms forwards again. All right, one more time. Straighten the legs. Raise the arms. Keep trying to lift the chest forwards as you reach the thumbs back. Squeeze the legs towards each other. And then bend the knees. Bring the arms down. Bring the feet down to the floor in front of you. So you're coming into Dandasana position, staff pose. Press your hands down into the floor, lift your chest and flex the toes towards you. So hands are alongside the hips. Spine is nice and straight. Flexing the toes back towards you, collarbones broad and nice and active. So you're pressing down through the mouths of the thumbs. All right. Separate your feet out to hip width distance. Roll forwards, but keep your fingertips back. So you're coming into your forward fold, as if you're trying to get the breastbone down to the floor between your ankles. So think about breastbones coming down between my ankles. You're reaching back to that behind you to keep the collarbones broad. Take a few deep breaths into your lower back. And then change the position of the arms and slide them down and see if you can grab hold of the outside of your feet. Bend the elbows
if you need to, or even try and bend the elbows and bring them back down onto your shin. Press the feet into your hands and then pull your shoulder blades down your back. So you're drawing those shoulder blades back and projecting the chest forwards as if you're trying to get that breastbone down between your ankles. Stay there. Breathe into your lower back. Keep engaging the feet into the hands. Keep trying to get the elbows back onto the shins. Less extreme forward fold than as grabbing the big toes with your feet together and trying to get the top of your head onto your toes. So working the activation of the feet into the hands. All right, so now we're going to reverse it, but you're going to bring the feet together, bring the hands down behind the back, with the fingertips facing forwards or slightly out to the sides. So we've already done, right at the start of the class, the knee bent version of this pose. And you can do the knee bent version of this pose if you want to. So you could have the knees bent, feet at hip width distance, or you're going to keep the feet together, point the toes, and lift the hips up. Press down through the mounds of the thumbs. Try and get the base of the big toes to stay touching, and tips of the toes down towards the floor. Release your head back. Breathe. Don't forget to breathe. And then lower it down. Take a rest for a moment. Just have a breath. Wiggle your toes a bit. And then do it again. Point the toes. Try and squeeze the legs towards each other. So it's like Navasana, boat pose. Press into the mounds of the thumbs when you lift. Try and get the tips of the toes down towards the floor as you lift the pubic bone. Try and engage the buttocks. Release the head back. Breathe and broaden across the collarbones. And then lower it back down to the floor. Take your heels back out to hip width distance. First of all, hands alongside the hips, get some length through the spine. And then slowly take it back forwards into your forward fold. So as you do, think, I want to land my lowest rib on my thighs before anything else goes anywhere. Hands to the outsides of the feet, elbows bending, drawing back, chest projecting forwards between the ankles, and then you can drop the head so that the neck's in line with the spine. Keep connecting the feet. Feel like you're pressing the backs of the legs down into the floor. Engage your quadricep muscles, the front thigh muscles, and draw those back into the hip sockets. And release that. Shuffle your bottom forwards. Come to lie down on your back. Walk your heels in towards your sit bones. Take the feet out to at least hip width distance, so outer edges of the feet are parallel to the sides of the mat. And then lift the back of the pelvis. Feel like you're lifting the pubic bone and lengthening the tailbone towards your knees. And then shuffle the arms underneath the body and see if you can interlace your fingers. Come onto the skin of the outside of the arms. As you press into the feet, try and lift the hips higher. Press into the upper arms and press down into your little fingers to try and lift the mid and upper back away from the floor. Use the back of the head if you can. Pressing into the back of the head to strengthen those back and neck muscles. If that's a little bit too much for the neck muscles, then work more with the upper arms. Keep pressing the upper arms down. Breathing deeply through the nose, letting the exhale breath fully exhale. You might even draw the navel in, see if you can lift the hips a little bit higher. And then release the fingers. Roll that back down to the floor. Rolling over to the side. Bring yourself up to all fours and then come up onto your knees with the knees at around hip width distance. So I'm going to give you two options here. Either you're going to go for the lean back or you're going to go for a Ustrasana, camel pose. So if you know that camel pose is really horrible for you, either because it gets into sensitivity in the lower back or for other reasons around the shoulders,
then don't worry about doing camel pose. So we're all going to start with non-camel pose, going for the lean back. So you can either have your toes tucked under or your toes pointing back. With the lean back, you're looking to maintain the distance between your hip bone and your lowest rib. So we're looking to lean back with the front of the body in one straight line. Leaning back, pressing into the shins, the top of the feet whenever you're ready. Feel like you're engaging the buttock muscles, trying to lift your pubic bone and extend your tailbone towards your knees. Go as low as you can go lower than you think you can, and then come back up. All right, so you can stick with that and repeat it, or bring the hands onto the back of the pelvis, and press through your shins, bring the pubic bone forwards again, lift the chest, release the shoulder blades down the back, take your head back, take a couple of breaths there, and then if you want to go for your heels, go for the heels. If you're going for the heels, grab the heels. Feel like you're bringing your hip bones forwards, lifting the chest, and release your head back. As long as your neck doesn't feel hideous, of course. Breathe while you're there. If you're doing the lean back, then bring yourself forwards every few breaths and then lean back again. Whenever you're ready to come out of your camel pose, those of you in camel, just come out of the pose and then bring your hands into prayer in front of your chest. Take a couple of breaths there and then do it again, either with the toes pointing back or the heels lifted, or go for your lean back again, whichever one you want to go for. And most important of all, keep breathing, those of you who are going into the camel pose. Take the breath right up underneath the collarbones. Be more expansive with those breaths than you would be normally. So there's a tendency for the body to want to stop breathing. You want to over-breathe to maximize the pose. Eventually, once you get into the habit of doing that, you're going to feel much more relaxed in the pose. When you're ready to come out of the pose, whichever version you're in, come back up. And now just rest with the thumbs on your forehead for a moment. So hands into prayer. Elbows pretty relaxed, so they'll probably be somewhere in front of your shoulders, and just press the thumbs into your forehead. Focus on your breath. So we're just using the thumbs to kind of connect with that third eye and your chakra. This is a really powerful pose. So just connecting with the inner landscape, the sensations in the body, the sensations of the breath. And come back down and kneel on. So you're sitting onto the heels for a moment, as long as that's okay for your knees. While you're there, hands into prayer in front of the chest. Draw the collarbones broad. So if the kneeling is not that great for you, just come into a cross-legged position. And releasing that, just rock off to the side so you can sweep your legs out of the way. And then come down onto the back again. And this final series of postures, we'll go into a series of inversions. So there, hopefully everybody's neck's okay. How's everybody's neck? Give me a thumbs up if it's okay. Give me a thumbs down if it's not. I think that's a thumbs up from everybody. All right, so we're not going to do shoulder stand, but we're going to do shoulder stand based postures. Right, so when we were doing our bridge pose, I was getting you to press into the back of your head. Pressing into the back of your head when we're doing these postures is a really good idea. So it helps to strengthen the muscles at the back of the neck. So those muscles often get quite weak because we have a tendency to stick our heads forwards and our chins forwards, and that weakens neck muscles. So by pressing into the floor, you're getting those muscles to engage and strengthen.
The reason it's a really useful technique and action when we go into these sort of shoulder stand based postures is because it lifts the cervical spine away from the floor. And you want to kind of protect that part of the spine. So we want to get that whole area up away from the floor, and pressing into the back of the head just really helps that. So we're going to go up as if into a shoulder stand. Just watch for a minute, because you might be doing several versions of these poses. And then up as if you're going into a shoulder stand. And so you want in your shoulder stands, or any version, to get the hips as high as you can over the shoulders. Once we're there, you're going to bend the knees and bring the knees in towards your forehead. Once the knees come in towards the forehead, you're going to interlace and extend the arms. Now, you might have to slightly shuffle from side to side to get the skin from you. But first, knees to forehead, because the knees to forehead is going to get your hips to lift. You can press into the back of the head, press into the arms. Then think about straightening the legs. Knees to forehead first. Then straighten the legs. All right? So rolling back. And then as if you were going into a shoulder stand, or what we used to do as kids when you used to bicycle your legs in the air, support your back. Try and shuffle your elbows in a little bit while you're in that position. So that helps with the once you interlace. And then bend your knees and bring your knees in towards your forehead. Now you're going to feel restricted in your breathing, so try and breathe into the back of your ribcage. Once you're there, interlace your fingers and extend your arms along the floor. Try and press into the upper arms. You might have to shuffle a little bit, but don't rock around too much. Remember that you've got to protect your neck. So press the arms down, but also press the back of the head down and try and get that lift of the cervical spine away from the floor. And once you feel comfortable, extend the toes down towards the floor. Keep pressing into your upper arms and trying to lift your sit bones towards the ceiling. If your toes are down on the floor, so those of you used to doing Ashtanga will be used to pointing the toes and putting the top of the foot on the floor. If your toes are down on the floor, see if you can tuck your toes under and rock back into the ball of your foot and press the ball of the foot down into the floor. Remember to keep trying to lift your cervical spine, press down into the upper arms, breathe into the back of the body, and if all that being in the extreme versions of these poses isn't good, remember you can come back to bent knees and supporting your back with your hands. All right, so now those of you who are still toes on the floor, bend your knees, point your toes back again, and try and squeeze your knees in around your ears. Good. Keep pressing the upper arms down, trying to lift the sit bones, squeeze the knees in, and take the shins down towards the floor. All right. Good. Then release from that, re-straighten the legs. Take one moment with your straight legs. Then bring the hands in, support your back, and however you can, come up, feet towards the ceiling. And once the feet are up towards the ceiling, bring your arms alongside your body. Support yourself on your arms and roll the spine down towards the floor until the pelvis hits. Still got the feet up in the air. So pelvis hits, legs are extended. Extend up through your heels, flex your toes back. And then very slowly, squeezing the legs towards each other. Try and lower the legs down to the floor as if they were the second hand of a clock. Slow motion. All the way down. Once you're down, separate the heels, making the legs out wide. Turn your palms to the ceiling, take your arms out wide. Press into the back of your head, draw the shoulder blades down the back, pin the skin of the upper back down to the floor. Lengthen the top of the head towards the back of the room. Close your eyes for Shavasana. Let the hinges of the jaws soften away from each other, and the tongue, the teeth, the gums, feel like you're softening all of those. Letting your brow broaden, bringing your gaze inwards, and anchoring your mind back to the flow of your breath.
Nothing to do but breathe.